Yay! Oh, oh. Anyway. Hey, Jammer Sonar and Demon McFly, arranging my stuff. That'll do. Man, this is got a slightly new setup, and it's super awkward trying to get things positioned. But anyway, what's new? 1 second. Yeah, how are you folks? I think my mic's working. Oh, it remembered where I was. Cool. Whoa! I'm going to drive on the left side of the road because I'm in the UK, so I don't know. It feels like this is the wrong way to go. Well, let's just fast travel. Oh, that is. Wow, this is a wobbly road. Oh, made it. Like a glove. Yorkshire pudding claw machine, that sounds like good fun. So smooth. Yay. Fun times. Falling off cliffs. I kind of wish the angle was tilted down just a smidge so I can see where I'm going. But that's probably part of why it feels fast or something like that. Uh-oh. Yeah, anyone got any dreams questions or whatever? I've got stuff I can teach, but always happy to help chat. I completed within a target time. That's the first time that's ever happened. Others all just said, nah, you're a noob. Cool. Oh, that's cool. You want the name of a Superman type hero? What about Pretty Good Man? Better than Average Man? Well, I hit it so hard it went fluffy. Anywho, cool. Yeah, I took a cool photo on here actually the other day. I don't know how to find it. Can I find it from here? Pretty cool. That photo mode is pretty sweet. Yeah, I've been making some thumbnails for tutorials out here. Got some AI stuff, some pathing stuff, some word puzzle stuff, some custom gravity stuff, and MISC. Yeah, I'm getting ready getting those ready for releasing publicly. So they've been on a lot of those have been on let's have a drink. On Patreon for a long time. Some of them since last September, I think. Yeah, that'd be cool. Right. I made this just a minute ago. I'll show you it. Hello, my name's TAPdreams. Yay! Wrong one. On the PS5 controller, if you click too much towards the edge, it doesn't know where you've touched. So just assume you've touched in the top left, which I guess is 0, 0 then. So if you click on like the edge of the bottom left, it does an angry face instead of a happy face. Hello, my name's TAPdreams. I guess I should like have brief gap. Hello, my name's TAPdreams. Yay! I might teach that how to do that later, maybe. But yeah, it's just so you got the sound recording, and then I've got one clip for the for that one and that one and that one, which kind of override these, which are like the vowels, and then the vowels are in this other one. So I can just record once to get the like closed mouth things, and then record a second time for the vowels, and then they kind of interact with each other. But in theory, that would make it faster to like record the syncing. But you'd have to get used to the buttons and stuff. Cool. Yeah, I guess I could show this. How to make a die that rolls and knows what number it rolled. So this is an element, so I'll bring it into a new scene. So let's grab. Howdy. So, where is it? I'm on too many collaborations. Why isn't that showing up? Oh, dice with rolled value. Okay, so I'll import this in. Where is it? It's up there. And then like straighten it by grabbing it with R2 and then triangle. I'll probably make it all nice and straight when you actually, for people to use. And the idea is you let it fall. What on earth is going on? It destroyed itself. Oh, it's because of that. Okay. So if I put it squiffy like that and let it fall, it knows it's a 2. And if it's a different one, it falls in a different place. There's a 1. Let me turn off my phone. Yeah, so and if I make it grabbable by it's already grabbable. So if I go to play mode, then I can kind of grab it and throw it in the air. I can like give it a spin, and it always knows where it's landed. One time it doesn't know where it's landed is if it lands what's known as cocked, which means it's kind of unclear which one is the upright one because it's on too much of an angle. So if I make a little divot, it doesn't know which one is up, so it says misroll, and then you could handle that however you wanted. Let's put it like that. So let's make this again. I'll just use the same sculpt and then add logic to it. So we've got a sculpt and it's like on the grid and stuff, so if we grab it and press triangle, then it will snap to the grid again, and we'll add a chip to it. And I want this chip to be in the middle for reasons, and if we select them both and group them up, now they'll move as one thing. And if we play time, nothing will really happen. Just turn that off. If we play time, nothing will really happen, but if we turn on movable on the group, then the sculpt and the microchip and everything will all move as one object. So now let's go in here and open the chip, and then we'll add some logic in here. I don't know how much tutorializing I'll be doing today, by the way, because my I've got a bit of a cough going on. But anywho, so we want to know if the 2 is pointing up, and we can use an angle sensor for that. So if we use an angle sensor, at the moment this isn't doing anything because it's not like linked up to the group or anything. So if we tweak the microchip, then we can use this apply to object wire. Move some stuff around again. Try and get this microphone closer. Okay, that should be better. Cool. So we have this apply to object link wire thing going on, and if we grab a wire from there and put it onto the group itself, now all the chips in this microchip will apply to that group. So this is sensing if that group, what angle that group is at. It has a ring, so if I just turn off the grid, you can adjust this ring, so like the ring doesn't move and the arrow does. So the arrow follows with the object, and if the arrow is within that ring, it will send a signal, and when it's out of that ring, it won't send a signal. So if it's pointing up like this, we know that the 2 is pointing upwards, and that's about it. And we can grab the dot and like angle it like that, so then we could see if the 2 is pointing that way, for example. But we want to check if it's pointing upwards. We also want to adjust this to something useful, and I set it to around 60 because once it's past that point, it kind of feels like it's a bit ambiguous as to which side should be up, considered up. So this is for 2, and we'll have like a value slider here that goes up to the maximum number 6. So this will be our the value of what is pointing up, basically, and the minimum should be 1, and we'll leave it on actually. Hello Gaming Life, welcome in. So this will just start off as 1, and we'll also have a switch to say that it's settled, and like it's figured out what number it is and stuff like that. So this is for when it's number 2, so this will use a keyframe to set this to 2, like that, and this angle range met is when it will be considered to be 2. So if you pin that to the screen and adjust this, now it's not considered to be 2, now it is, now it's not, and so on. So that's cool. And then we want to duplicate this stuff for each of the sides. So if we just move that over there. So that's up, and this will be to the left. So we'll just point that arrow left, so that now the 3 needs to be up. So the 3 needs to be up like that, and then it will send a signal. So that one sets it to 3. Oh, some feedback or something. Let's try that. And then to the right is the 4, so over there, that sets it to 4. Like that. And then below is the 5. Point that down. And then we've got front and back. So this is the front, and that's the 6. Point that forwards. And point this back. Which is the 1. So that will set it to 1. Nice. So I'm just going to display this number for testing. So I'll have a number displayer, and now we can just, it's a 2, and now it's a 1, and if we like have a more complex sculpt it can kind of bounce off of. And we can put it at the top and watch it kind of bounce around. And it's 5, and it says it's 5. So job done. Hey Reckley, welcome in. But we only really, we don't care like what it is while it's in the air. We don't care if it's 2, 1 and 6 and stuff as it's falling around. We only really care when it's actually stopped moving and it's just sitting there, and then that'll lock in the number. So first let's kind of put all this into a chip like this. And that as well, and this will be like an output from this chip, so we'll add a node in here. And now we can just wire that node into whatever other logic we've got out here. And this is figuring out stuff. Let's just if we drop it into the pit, then it still says it's 1, but actually none of these, if you look at the face of these gadgets when it lands normally, then one of them will be black because that's sending a signal. That's what that means. But if it falls into the pit, then none of them are black. So at that point we know that it's cocked and it needs re-rolling or whatever. So we'll have another, we'll move that switch into here. So this is the side, and this is it's settled. No, it's, what do we call it? Readable. But that will be off until one of these is actually sends a signal. So in these keyframes will turn that switch on. Wait, what's going on? Nope. Okay. Cool. So until then, it will say that it's not readable, and we can give that a different icon. And we can say it's only going to show a number if it's determined to be readable. So we can wire that into the power of the number. And I'm going to put this in the scene actually. So in scene, face camera, always on top. Make it large and kind of off to the side a bit. So if it lands normally, it's fine. If it's like tumbling through the air, it's still showing numbers. But if it lands in the pit, then it won't show a number. So we now know that this needs re-rolling, that kind of thing. And we can give a message to the player, or we can like auto re-roll it or something, whatever we want to do with it. Now to check if it's actually settled, because that's the only time we actually care about what this number is, or if it needs re-rolling or whatever. So so we want to know if it's like stopped moving. Let's do. Trying to make like a dice tower. So close. So we want to know when it stopped moving, like for example settling down here. So we want to detect if it is moving and then, or its current speed sort of thing. So if we use a movement sensor, this has a velocity overall, and we can just wire that into a calculator. And it also has a acceleration overall. So if this had like, this was shot into the air, then as it arcs into the air, it will get very slow at the top, but it will still have acceleration pulling it down. So we want to pay attention to that too. And it can also, if you imagine it spinning on the ground sort of thing, from low friction or something, then it still wouldn't be settled. So we'll have we'll sense the rotation of it as well, how fast it's rotating, and this has angular velocity and angular acceleration, just like the movement. And we want to make sure all of those are below some very small number. So if we go less than 0.01, then if we play time, it will be less than 0.01 when it stopped. And if we have it tumbling around, so it looks like we need a higher threshold. down to 0.1. So we're watching this, not the number. So yeah, so it never says it's settled until it's actually on the ground, not moving. So that's pretty cool. Oh, hey mate, how you doing? And JC Rules as well. Welcome to the stream. Cool. So when that happens, we probably want to do the check then. So if we wire that into the power of checking which side it is, then it'll never check, and it'll never show the side that it thinks it is until it's settled down. And then if we fall into the pit again, then at that point it'll say something. So let's have a little message. Whoa, that was a bit of a crazy. And I adjust the camera slightly and it's fine. It's one of those weird bugs. So I'll use the icon called no entry to indicate there's a problem. And we'll make it red. And in scene. And then make it larger. Like that. And that happens if this isn't true. So if it's not readable, but we are checking. So if we just have another output, which is I can't put cocked because it'll asterisk it out. It'll censor it. So I'll just say missed. And that'll be if it's not readable. But because it's in this chip, it's saying if it's not readable and we're settled, then send a signal from missed. Like that. So when it's missed, then we'll power this one. Yay! And it's over here. Yay! So that works pretty nicely, and that's how you can make a rolling dice. Any questions? There's an expansion thing I might teach as an addendum. But hopefully that makes sense. If you want to, I can teach how to launch it into the air in like a slightly random angle and things, so that it kind of rolls itself, and then we can trigger that at different times depending on whatever. Hey Giovanni. Okay, I'll cool. So let me just remind myself of this. Yeah, that doesn't even have it, so I'll just delete that. Right. Yeah, I'll just show you. So this is the actual version you can use. It has a thing for the moving threshold, and it waits for a small amount of time once it's settled to make sure it's not going to suddenly start moving or something. But that's the only kind of minor differences. Right. Also take control of it. Yeah, I actually made a daydream about that, which is on my Patreon. The way I do it is I teleport the ragdoll to the character, and then I just turn the character off and turn the ragdoll on, and that's about it basically. So like it's teleporting while the character is on and running around, and then it's not teleporting but turned on when it's in ragdoll mode. Yeah. But I can. Yeah. So I'm just working myself up to it. So let's add to this its own little launcher system so that it can launch itself in a random angle and things to roll itself, and then we can trigger that in different ways. So let's make a chip for it. Where's a chip? There's a chip. And in here we want to have a mover on that, and will be it will have full strength and low damping, and probably quite low speed as well. So and it would only be triggered like briefly, so I'm going to have a timeline and we'll zoom into it. So if we drag the end with X, make it short, and then L1 and right to kind of zoom into it. So this shows like 1 second over a large area. So you can do very fine timing to it. So let's put the mover on here, but first we're going to add a microchip, and this will generate a random direction effectively. So I'm going to use a signal generator, and I'll move this chip out here for now so that we can test and stuff, and I'll make this non-movable. So the signal generator outputs signals that go up and down, and they go up to this range, a value within this range, but because it's the same number, it always goes to the same number. But if this was a value between 0.3 and 1, then it will go up to a value between 0.3 and 1 every time. And then when it goes down, it will go between 0 and 3.1, for example. So if you make both of these -1 to +1, then that will give us a random number between -1 and +1. And we can put sweep seconds to 0. And now it's generating a new number within that range every frame. The only thing is, the first frame this happens, it will always give the same value, and then the second frame will give you a properly random value. Okay. Yeah, so you can't, if the limbs are linked to the procedural stuff in the puppet, then you can't like turn off that procedural stuff, so it'll always be controlled by that. So if it sounds like they had a different character, creature or something that wasn't humanoid, so they didn't use the procedural animation, and that means that it wasn't controlled by the puppet, it was just controlled by an animation or something. And then when they turned the animation off, it would just naturally fall about. So so that would work for a hand animated puppet, but not really a procedurally animated puppet. You have to choose one or the other. Cool, so that will give us like left or right, for example. Left would be minus and right would be plus. And then I'll have another one for Z, which is forwards and backwards. And then another one for up and down. So actually we don't want to we don't want it to be like pushing it up or pushing it down. We want it to always go up, but maybe we want to, so we don't actually need that one, I think. And now we want to turn it into an actual direction, because the mover has an input for the direction of movement, so we'll make a 3D direction of movement and then feed that into the mover. So to do that we need a combiner, and then we set that to 3 numbers because we have X, Y and Z, so that's how so it's represented as 3 numbers, so we use the 3 numbers combiner. So it's in that order, X, Y and Z. So if we do X and Z, then Y will always be, we need like a value for Y as well actually, so let's just get a value slider like that and wire that into Y, and have it as 1. Cool, and then we can wire this into the mover's direction of movement. And like we said earlier, the first frame a signal generator starts, it'll always give the same value. So we need to have it on for 2 frames before we actually do stuff with it. So we put it into here, the first frame it will be the same, second frame it will be random, and that's when we tell the mover to do stuff. So if we just turn that off, and then make this movable again, and if we turn it on and we put it onto once mode, then it will always, when it gets powered on again, it'll start from the beginning and play to the end. So if I turn it on, it moves in a random direction, but only a tiny little hop. So if we turn up the speed, now it's like hopping in a random direction. But for this I tend to want to have it not be so directional in like left, right and forwards and backwards. So I tend to have this like smaller range so that it's always mostly up. Oh, actually, I tend to prefer it so it's always mostly up instead of forwards and backwards as well. So if I turn down the strength of X, which is like that, and Z, which is like that, then it will be mostly having strength in Y, and we turn that down. And I turn it down even more. Oh, this is damping. That's not going to help. Aha. So instead, so I'll just adjust the ranges so that they're less negative and positive. So now it's mostly up, but a little bit of angle as well, which is cool. Another thing you can do if you want to is, which tends to look even better, is a rotator. So put that in there and do the same thing for the rotator. So the rotator can take a direction of rotation. So that's like this direction here, basically. It's like how that circle is oriented. So we'll just do a similar thing for that, but for that it can rotate in all directions, I think, and then just wire that in. And we need to give it full strength. There we go. And we can up the speed of that if we want to. And we can actually adjust that speed, so give it a random range of speed. So I'm going to adjust this for powering the rotator, so give it more power or less power, which will mean it affects the rotation more or less. So we just do that with another signal generator, wire that in. And if you have more of a range, it will be clearer what's going on. Let's just have this looping. So sometimes it rotates more than others. But we want it to be mostly rotating most of the time. And this gives us like a random roll kind of effect. Like that. And now we can say, we can just have this in the main thing. Now we can say if it missed, then we will just play that again, sort of thing. And yeah, so if it just lands normally, it won't trigger its launching thing. But if we make it land in the pit, then it will try and jump and give us a proper roll. Checking chat. Cool. And then we can have some like central thing which tells all of the dice to roll. So if we get a tag and call it roll, then if we have a trigger zone looking in the whole scene that looks for a tag called roll, and I'm going to use up and down the D-pad to go through the different tag names, then it doesn't matter where this is, this trigger zone will detect this tag, and when this tag is detected it sends a signal from tag output, so we can have that run the launch as well. And we can call this launch. Cool, so I'll just wire that into remote controllable sensor, and when I press X it will launch the cube, so it'll sort itself out. Oh, there you go. And then when I press X it'll launch again. Oh, it's launching twice, isn't it? You probably want to say only do this when you're settled, so if you put that in here, okay, so I'll hold X and it'll only try and launch again once it's settled down, and I'll press X, yay, and then I can have just a whole load of these. They're all sort themselves out, and X to launch all of them and do another re-roll. And you could adjust it so that it's more rolly and less jumpy. Hello, Rocky Raccoon. And for an actual game, you probably want to know if they're all settled and sorted and ready to go, and then kind of look at what numbers they had to like use in your calculation or in your game, or move that many spaces, stuff like that. So in which case you want to use this readable, and or use Yeah, so until it's actually readable, we want to send a signal which kind of indicates that this dice is not ready. So I'll wire readable into a NOT gate. So this is essentially if it's not readable yet or it's not settled yet, then this will send a signal, and we can use that to power a tag. So this one is still rolling. And then over here we can say look for still rolling, and if there's any of those, then we can just have some text like that. And when there's a lot of dice, still rolling, and now it's not rolling, and then we can use those values. So how do we get those values out? We can just send it when this readable sends a signal, because then we know it's completely ready. So if we grab a wireless transmitter and power it only when it's readable, and then we send the side that we got, and we give this a name like value. You can use a keyboard. I haven't actually tested it, but you could on the PS4. So you can use a USB keyboard. Mouse is a whole other thing, because you kind of need the controller for most things. You can use a keyboard only for like typing stuff, basically, because it's so tightly linked to the controller for the shortcuts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, value. But the problem is, if we have more than one of these, I'll just rotate this one. Let's set up the receiver, and let's just put all this in a chip, so tidy up a bit. Okay, so this is looking in the scene for that transmitter called value, up and down on the D-pad, and let's see what that gives us. So just move it over there. So we've got a 2 and a 1, but it's giving us a 2. And if this landed on a 4, it would give us the 4, because when there's many transmitters going to one receiver, it just gives us the value that is furthest from 0, unless we are sending a fat wire. So to make a fat wire, we use a combiner again, and we just have one value that we really care about, so we'll just put it onto 2 numbers just as an excuse to make it a real fat wire. And then we wire that into the fat wire, and we send the fat wire instead. And let's delete that one. And then on this side, we split the fat wire and because we used A over here, we use A over here. So what this does is it actually averages out all of the signals coming from these fat wires. So it'll average this, which would be a 2, with this, which would be a 6, and which means it adds them all up and then divides it by how many transmitters it found, which is 2. So it would be 6 plus 2 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So if we try that, and we got 4. But if we multiply it by 2, because we know that's how many dice there are, then we can get back to the original sum, which would be 8. So if we multiply an easy way of finding how many of these dice there are is just having another tag. So if you grab a tag and you say die, and then in here we can use a trigger zone looking for that tag, and if we turn up the number required, then it will send the number detected of that tag. So how many of that tag are there in the scene up to, so we can multiply that by that and we'll get back to that sum of all of the added up values that we rolled. So we multiply by that and then display that. So you can see it's found only one because we need to replace that one. And it's found two of those tags because there are two tags in the scene. So it's multiplying it by 2, and then we're getting back to our 8, which is the sum of the dice. And now if I just copy a whole load of those dice, it's going to add them all up when they're all finished. And I'm going to have fewer of them so that I don't have to do too much adding up in my head. Let's put that on the roller. Right, so we've got 5, a 6 and a 2, which is 11, 13, and that's added up to 13. So now this chip knows that what we rolled and that we've finished rolling, or that we're still rolling. So if we use a not gate, then we could only display this if we have finished rolling. There's nothing still rolling. But you can kind of see that it flashes right at the start because the trigger zone needs a frame to actually find stuff. So if we need to like turn this not gate off for just a single frame right at the start to give it a chance to work properly. So we use a timeline, make it really short, zoom in, and we have a keyframe that turns the not gate off. So that's these, because I zoomed in, these are individual logic frames. So for one logic frame at the start of the scene, it will turn that off and then it will work as normal. So oh, it still appeared. So I put it onto two things and then it didn't. I don't know. So I'll just rotate these to different sides. Oh, I won't rotate that one. So now we got a 4, a 4 and a 2, and that adds up to 10. And it showed it only when they'd all stopped rolling. And then we could use that to like use that number and tell the player or something, and then the player's pawn like moves along on the track or something like that. Hello Ryan, I've been streaming on Twitch the whole time. I just now and then visit YouTube for a bit. That's actually where I get all the footage from my tutorials, is streaming. So most of the tutorials you've seen are from my Twitch streams. Hello, Syed Messiah. Cool, so that's that. And here's one I made earlier. Where is it? The dice roll demo. So this has some like extra features of I press circle and it does a roll. And they have some sound effects. And one by one they kind of have a little ding and tell you what number they rolled. And you saw just then it didn't know what number it was, so it re-rolled itself. And then it shows you the sum on the screen. Hey Lucas, yeah, well, it happens now and then. It actually with the PS5 now, it has an option for the privacy setting of the stream as well. So I might actually start using it to teach people one-on-one as well. Which should have like a recording of the whole thing, stuff like that, but no one can see it, which would be useful for things. There's a whole other part to this with pawn movement, which doesn't use the dice, but you can like put them together pretty easily. But if anyone has like questions about that or any other Dreams questions, I'll take a quick break to talk about something else. Oh, thanks, Rocky. Yeah, so the share play is pretty useful for people. It's like an hour or two of direct mentorship, where we can like ask questions and I can help them as best I can. But yeah, I have been thinking about possibly having like private like courses that are streamed, and then people pay to be on that course, and we like stream every day over a week or something, and I teach how to make a particular kind of game from the ground up, and like teach all sorts of stuff during that. Maybe like stream for an hour and with questions and answers and stuff, and then they can work on things from that during the day, and they can get in contact anytime and things like that. So it's kind of like an advanced class, or like more, well, an in-depth class anyway. I'd probably like to do beginner type ones, which kind of start off with like very simple, here's how to make a platformer, and then but here's how to like adjust the puppet itself with the settings, and here's how to make moving platforms, and here's how to make a puppet from scratch and stuff, and kind of build up and get more and more in depth as the week goes on or something. Yeah, cool, Lucas. Nice to see you. Cool. It's hot in here with the windows closed. Right. So another part to kind of making a board game that might be useful is moving pawns across a map. So I've made this simple little pawn thing, and this is like a map from the Dreamverse, and I can press up and down on the D-pad to kind of add moves, and then it will just keep moving until those moves are used up. So like I can move 2 forwards and 3 back, and it will go around corners like that, and it will like rotate to face the right way, and it will hop over things. So oh, there's a bug. If I press forward twice, so it would land on the purple, but because instead of landing on the purple, it just adds another move so that it goes past it like that. And let's go over to these ones, and works going backwards as well. So if I push forwards twice, it will end up to the left, bottom left corner. So up twice, and you can see it's actually adding moves behind the scenes, as you can see in the number in the top left. And yeah, it just kind of works. There's just like a little bit of setup for each tile, so that it knows like the position and direction of it, but it's fairly straightforward to get the basics working. So if I grab the pawn, should still be in here somewhere. Bring the pawn in, and get the game board. Okay, so we're going to start over here. I'm just going to move some of these trees out of the way. Cool. So this pawn will have some logic in it. So let's add a chip above its head. And that. So the basic idea is each of these will have a position and a facing direction, which this will detect when it needs to go forwards or backwards. So if we just have a chip, what? Oh, it's like between two things. Okay. Okay. Let's try again. So let's put a chip on there, and I'm going to have it kind of face the way it's moving, so then we can see at a glance what's going on with it. Cool. So this will transmit its position and also its right, I already said that. I'm actually going to move it kind of forwards a bit to this kind of quarter mark instead of it straight in the middle, which will help me out with some things later on. So first I want to know where it is with a tag, and we want to know where the center of this is, so let's just move that like that and press triangle to snap it to the grid. Also, I want to know we want a direction that is pointing forwards for towards the next tile. So I'll get a movement sensor, and oh, it's in the. Let's do that. Okay, and then surface snap it. There we go. And because it's surface snapped onto an object, it has these axes. So if I make Z point forwards, this way, then we have these directions, so the Z direction we can get directly out of there, and that is the way this should be facing. Let's just give it a smiley face so that we can tell which way it's facing. There we go. Cool. And then we want to transmit those with a transmitter. So this tag, I'll just transmit the whole transform like that. This transform is kind of the position and rotation and things of that gizmo right there. So we're going to send that, and that will be the position. And then this will be the Z direction, and we'll call that facing. And then this will pick those up, so we'll use a receiver, and we want to be careful about where we're actually looking for this. So we know that the chip should be at the front edge of here. So if we put this onto a cube shape and then use the grid to position it properly, so be around there. Because the key to this is not getting any of the areas we don't want to care about. So we don't want to accidentally get the position of this tile as well, because that will mess the whole thing up. Okay, so that will just get that chip's position and stuff. So this is looking for the position. Up and down on the D-pad, cycles through the names, and then we'll have another one in the same place looking for facing. Cool. So if we just use just use some water. Hydrate. So if we get a follower, and we need to link this chip up to the group, so we tweak the chip and then apply to object onto the group, and now all the things in this chip will affect that group. So the follower will affect the group. So let's put that down here, press triangle to snap it to the grid. So if we wire the position into the target position of the follower, now it will move to that position, but it actually lost it because once we got near it, that is no longer inside that zone. So now it doesn't have a position to send to the follower, which means it sends just a 0. So then it's going towards the center of the scene. If I turn on the floor, you can see it's going to the center of the floor, which is the position 0, 0, 0. So what we want to do is like lock this in and then move. So if I have a signal manipulator, wire that in there and wire from there into the follower, and that has a freeze output setting. So we want to freeze that while we're moving. So let's use a timeline and a keyframe that just turns on freeze, and we'll put the follower in here as well, and we'll just give it like a second or so to move. Let's just up the strength damping so it just moves smoothly. Hey Donnelly, thanks for the apple. That didn't work at all. Right, so this won't work. This won't happen immediately anyway. So let's just have a gap at the start. So when it will play along, and then it will freeze the position and move to it, and that's all fine. And then if we have another one here, then we can have this sort of loop. Let's have a loop. So it'll move, and then it will do the same thing and move to the next one. And let's have it. Let's have these on here as well. Rotate that one, and just make sure that's pointing the right way. It's not. Just see if this works. No. So what I'll do is I'll actually, instead of these tiles, I'll use this arrow tile, and it'll make it nice and easy to tell what's going on, and I'll just copy those tiles around. So we turn on, make sure you turn on local space for this, so that when we rotate the sculpt for going over here, the Z pointer will still rotate as well. So let's make some more of those. Okay, so it'll like scoot forwards and again, but then it doesn't find anything. So we need it to be able to find this, so we need to like extend it to the right slightly, so it just about catches it. And now let's try. Let's just have a smaller gap. Okay, but because we're not rotating, once we get to here, we should rotate so that now that zone will fit in here, and we can continue. So we need to use this facing. So the first thing I tried was just a lookout rotator, and using a similar thing up here, and wire that into the lookout rotator. Make sure that arrow is pointing the right way, and then we want to use one of these so that it freezes as well. Okay, but it doesn't yeah, why doesn't it send in again? Whoa, indeed. Yeah, there's some bug with the group, but I can't remember what it was. So the way this doesn't work properly, so we need to go in here, and I'll group these up so that the face moves with it, and then I'll just have a little hide everything else, have a little anchor piece down here like that, and this will have a bolt between the anchor and this group with all the visual stuff in it, and put the bolt in the center so it can rotate kind of left and right like that. And the bolt should be just invisible, non-collidable, so it can still move around and stuff. But now we want this, instead of this whole chip affecting everything, we want the follower to affect the group, and the lookout rotator to just affect this part in here. So I'll remove that wire that we had before and use this affected object from the follower on the group and the lookout rotator into the group onto the pawn itself. Cool, let's try that. It's just not doing it. If we're facing... Let's just have it start here. Huh. Yeah, so now it's kind of rotating, but getting messed up somehow. Well, I think I'll just increase the rotation speed so it kind of gets there quicker. There we go. So that kind of works. And then, but then when it gets there, the zones aren't actually rotating with it. If you see that, because now the group isn't rotating at all, just the thing inside it. So we need another kind of chip in here. So if we move that up, and then inside this thing that actually looks in the right direction, we'll have another chip. And this will be what has the receivers on. So just make sure these are the right position again. Cool. Nice. So if we just like watch those zones, now the zone is in front again. So it's working fine. Yeah, I like putting stuff in timelines. Cool. So that's that, and now we can just add more of these to go around the place. I'll just take this route over here and point over there. Oh, it lost its way. Have rotated. Right, so when it gets to here, let's check to make sure the zones are pointing in the right direction again. They are. Check out what this stuff is doing. What I can do is add this dummy sculpt and add a mover, and that has an arrow on it, and we can send it a direction. So we could just set the speed to 0, and we can wire that signal into it, to the direction. Right, so it's pointing that way. What? So I think we might need like a little... Let's try having a bigger gap or something. What if... Oh, it's not in the center of the thing. Let's try that again. Okay, then it works. should point that way. It doesn't. There were definitely some weirdnesses when I was making this that I eventually got around, but like it should just work, right? Let's display should all be fine. It looks like it's not. It needs to be back like that more. I thought I adjusted that before. Okay, so from this angle we need to like make sure it catches this. Let's do that. That's pointing up here. So basically, to be sure, you need to like check all these different kind of combinations of corners. And then it doesn't know what to do, so it goes to the center. But that's about all there is to it. Moving backwards is a bit more complicated. So, I'll see you, Giovanni. Yeah, cheers. So this is... I guess, yeah. So these are the forward ones, and then we'll have some backward ones. So, so if you think about the different directions this could come from, we could come from straight on, we could come from either side onto this tile. So we need to move back to these places as well. So we need to be able to catch all of these three in the same Wi-Fi zone. So for that I used a cone and moved that back here, rotated it around and kind of adjusted it until it kind of worked. So kind of made it wide like that. Cool. And to test this, you can kind of see the position that it's being sent, or we can actually use the facing and it has a clearer sign. So if we delete some of these, is it still finding it? Yeah. If it's just from the right, it's still finding it, and just from the left, it's still finding it, but it shouldn't find stuff over here or something, because it's not within that zone, so they should be ignored completely. Cool. So so then we just do the same thing, this same thing, but we use these values instead. So what I could do, I'll move these into here, just delete that, and then we have this keyframe, and that will also say that these will be sent. So if we have nodes that these go through, we can have that not be allowed through unless that keyframe tells it it's okay. So that keyframe will lock this and allow it signal through into the follower, and the same for the facing. And then we kind of want a copy of all of that stuff just down here. And this is, yeah, so this is forward. And this is only affecting these ones down here, so this is backward. And normally these are off. Yep, that one will turn these on, that one will turn these on, and then we can put all these into single nodes that are coming out of here. So this is for the position. I'll give that an icon. And this is for the facing, and I tend to use this one because it's got a circle on it. And then the follower and look at rotator only cares about what these resulting ones are. And then you can like rearrange these to be clearer. Just don't get your wires crossed. Cool. There's that, and now we just like power whichever one we're trying to move towards. So let's just have some switches. That's for forward, that's for backward, and that would like power it as well. And I'll just put it onto once mode. Okay. So I want to go forwards. Nope. Forwards. Goes into there. Yeah, so you have to like leave it on to keep it in that mode sort of thing. Which makes sense. Just a minute. Right, so if we go forwards, that's fine. If we go backwards, it freaks out. Yeah, so we need to have this be on position, and this one will be backwards facing. Okay, so backwards, and now it's like rotating to move backwards. If we try and move backwards around, oh, don't turn it off halfway through, or it will stop working. Oh. It goes like that, and then it should rotate to face this way towards us, and it goes around the corner like that. So probably you won't have like forwards and backwards moving. It goes towards the center because it doesn't have a position to go to, so it just goes to the 0. So now we want to kind of, instead of just pressing these on and off and stuff, we'll give it, we'll kind of track, let's do that. we want to track how many moves in what direction we're trying to get to, and kind of let it do its own thing. So for that I used a calculator to make like a local variable. So instead of a variable thing like that, I used a calculator which is its result is looped into itself, and now we can kind of send values into here and it will add and subtract from the overall number. So it's like a locally stored number. So cool. If we add so if we added a switch and a value slider, and we powered the value slider for a short amount of time, and we sent a 1, so we want to power it for just 1 frame, and that will add it once to this. If we use a signal manipulator in pulse mode, then when we turn this on, it will pulse for 1 frame and power that for 1 frame, and that will send that value into here for 1 frame. And then I'll just display that on the screen, what our current value is. Let's put it over there. So play time, and then do that, and it added a 1. And added a 1. And if we had this on 8, then it will add an 8. So 2 plus 8 is 10. And then it will just stay at 10. So we want to first be able to add to this. So I'll just use a controller sensor in remote mode, and and I'll use up to add to it and down to subtract from it. So if I use this pulse, then I can press up and it will send a 1. And if I do the same for down, but instead of using this simple pulse mode, I can go to custom remapper and then pulse set on, and that does exactly the same thing. But now I can change what it actually outputs when it pulses. So it will send this one while it's not pulsing, and this one while it is pulsing. So if we just move that down to -1, then it will subtract 1 when it pulses. And we can wire that into the same place. So if we just try that, I'm going to hold L1 or it doesn't actually matter. So I'll press up, 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 down, down, down. So I can just change this value as I like by pressing the up and down buttons. If this is positive, then we want to play this with the positive stuff kind of locked in. So let's go like that. So we've got a calculator. Is the current value more than 0? If it is, then we'll power this and power the forwards thingy. We don't need that switch anymore. And then at the end of this, we want to subtract 1 from here, so that it goes back down slowly to 0 until it has no more moves left. So I'll have a value slide over here that goes down to -1, and normally it's on 0, and we want to kind of add this to these. So I'll have another calculator. So it's got this preliminary thing, and it will just add those together and then put that result into here. So it will add +1 from here, or -1 from here, or +1 or -1 from this timeline. Let's move that across. So this would kind of keyframe that to -1 if it was moving forwards like that, and that would subtract 1 from this number. So now if I go up a load of times, that didn't work. It's doing weird stuff again. Oh, it's reversing. That's meant to be forwards. Forward, forward. Okay. Oh, the backward is on all the time now. So it's we need to turn the backward off because otherwise it'll interfere. So let's try that again. So up, and it moves forwards, and up twice, and it doesn't do a second time because it never starts a new. The power is always on, so we need to kind of turn this off so that it will, when this animation finishes, it will turn back on and repower this, and it will restart from the beginning again. So add another keyframe, turning that off, and I'll just make it a different color. Okay, so I'll press up twice. Oh, because it does that. I think probably we could do that, right? Yeah. No. If we move this keyframe right just a frame, then there'll be a little gap for this to yeah, for this to subtract 1, and then it might work. No, I think we'll have to. I think what we'll do is we'll have 3 modes using a selector. So a selector is good for modes because it sends just a signal out of one of them, and then you can set it to a different mode to send a signal just out of that one. So A will be nothing's happening, B will be we're moving forwards, so we'll power that, and forward, and this is forward complete. Cool, and then C is moving backwards, so we'll power that, and we'll have this other one for forward, backward complete. Oh. And that will power that as well, and that will set it to +1 because we'll be in a negative number, so we want to add 1 to get closer to 0. And then when this timeline is finished, we'll set it back to A because we're not doing anything. Cool. And then we don't need that. Oh. Yeah, it's setting that for too long somehow. Let's put that there. Cool, so that works. And then this doesn't need to do anything, this just sets it into B mode to move forwards. So if I press up twice, it'll move forward once. Ah, we do need the, yeah. If we turn the selector off, then when it turns on again, it will notice this new signal and then adjust its mode again, hopefully. So, let's put it back on there. That kind of worked. Cool, so we had 3 spaces and then it moved around the corner. Good stuff. And then let's try moving in reverse. So when we have a negative number, so it's less than 0, we'll go to the move backwards mode. So I'll move forwards and then I'll move backwards. Nope, don't like it. You've got to wire that into here. Yeah. Cool, so now we can move backwards as well. So we can like move forwards a load. And I can reduce that down so move backwards. Good stuff. And we can make this faster. Good stuff. So like anything can add to this or subtract from it. So it could be the result of a dice roll, or it could be an event that you landed on, lets you move forward 2 spaces, things like that. Yeah, I think that's about it for how that works. And you can like animate the pawn up and down, I guess. I guess I can show that. And what we could do is in this group animate this stuff moving up and down for each space. So because this is actually part of this group with the bolt and everything, inside here we want to be able to move this as one unit as well. So I'm going to group it up again. So I'm going to make this a group by itself. Normally this is all the stuff in the group. Oh no, we got that chip. That's fine. So I'll just group this and the face together. And now I can animate that moving up and down in here. So yeah, there's an empty one and then an empty one at the end, and it's up in the middle. Okay, so oh, don't like that, does it? Let's turn movable off of that group. So it will still be affected by the lookout rotator, but it won't actually be physically simulated or anything. Now it's got little hops, and you can put a sound effect on there. Like that. And now for that. Okay, no worries, Donnelly. See you later. Cool. What's the time? Oh, it's almost 5 o'clock. So that's how you do that. I think that's about it for that tutorial. The actual like full scene is remixable over here, so you can like pick that stuff apart. It's got some like extra features and whatnot. And there you go. So I'm going to watch MM stream. So I'll end the stream and my stream there. If you're if you're interested in finding out more about me, how you can help me out, how I can help you out, check out TAPdreams.com. It's got all the information and where I am at. It also has like documentation and stuff, which will help you like look stuff up if I'm not around and whatever. But yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you whenever I stream on YouTube next. But I'm over to Twitch now to watch Media Molecule if you want to join me. That's it. Thanks everyone. Bye.